I didn't go to Oxford, see?
Well, I don't have the rank either. Why don't you ask Mr. Rennie? Perhaps he has the rank.
I think there's a tie-up with McGovern. He's a systems analyst out of work. Well, the DHSS have been pushing him. Well, there's hundreds of jobs in his field. He has a doctor's note for his nerves, though. And his last job was with Soil Scan in Gloucester.
Soil Scan?
Yeah. Agricultural chemicals and that. Fertilizers.
A subsidiary of Corby International.
Yeah, that's right.
There, isn't it, Lewis? Hmm? Beaufort is involved with the parent company. It's right there and we can't get at it. So why bother to try? I mean, everyone's happy, no one's been murdered. What was I doing running through a hospital after a hired heavy? Waste of effort.
And you reckon Normington's got the tape? What do you think he'll do with it?
Textual analysis for his American students, I expect.
I could do a bit of work on Soil Scan. Have another look at the stuff from the fire.
Have another look at my glass first.
It's a bit early for a second, isn't it, sir? We still haven't fathomed the umbrella. Nor the pool of vomit.
What a good idea, Lewis. The sicked-up quiche. Do fathom that. Why don't you?
I'll see you later, then, sir.
There you are.
Thank you very much.
Did I say I wouldn't be home for lunch?
You said an appointment at 12:30.
I thought it would interest you, sir.
What is it?
It's a printer's code from the bottom edge of a poster.
What kind of a poster?
Greenpeace, would you believe?
You're certain?
Couldn't be surer.
Well, good work, Lewis.
There was some other stuff like that around the house, sir. A couple of books, magazines. I suppose most of the stuff would have been burnt, though, in his room.
All right, that's McGovern. We know he's interested in ecological matters and he used to work for Soil Scan.
Well, he could have been, what, blowing the whistle, couldn't he?
It's possible.
Well, why would he be knocking down a bloke that would have been on his side?
Maybe he got the wrong man.
He what's it?
He got the wrong man. It was dark, it was raining.
Brilliant. I bet he had a bad stomach and all. McGovern, sensitive bloke like him.
Yes, thank you, Lewis.
And he'd have fetched up his ecological vegetarian supper after just around the corner. Oh, sorry, sir. You reckon he was out to get the master?
Or possibly he was out to get Corby International through the master. No, no, it still doesn't. Morse. Has Chief Superintendent Rennie been informed? In that case, say we'll be there in a few minutes. We've had a call from Mrs. Copley Barnes. It seems we're off again.
Mrs. McGovern. Mrs. McGovern. stable. Locked herself in.
What happened?
She had a bad night, and then somebody called her this morning.
Imogen? Imogen? It's Mummy, darling. It's all right. I'm here now, Imogen. Unlock the door, darling, and come out, please.
It's quite a display, Mr. Hopkirk.
Yeah, not bad.
Oh, you did a good job here.
Plenty of rain, isn't it?
Not as off-putting as a sheep's skull, I suppose.
It's addressed to the master, like the last one. Has he seen it?
Nope. Blanche would sooner he didn't. She doesn't want him bothered.
We'll have to know if inquiries are to go on.
Exactly. Her idea is that you just log it, or whatever it is you do, and then do nothing, unless another real abomination arrives.
I can't just log it. She made the complaint. She should be here to give details.
That's what I said. She wasn't even going to call you. She asked my opinion.
You insisted?
You said you wanted to be informed.
You don't think the master should be spared the bother?
No, I don't. Why should he?
You tell me.
I'm sorry?
Why the master shouldn't be protected.
Are you suggesting your inquiries be compromised because he has to be told something he'd rather not know?
No, I mean in larger terms. In terms, say, that might affect the slant of this piece you're writing about him.
I haven't decided on the slant yet.
No? What's his record on, for example, environmental matters? As deplorable as some of his associates? David Naylor's, for instance?
We shall have to see, shan't we? My editor wants a series on men of power and influence. The master of an Oxford college is an obvious choice.
What do you make of his son-in-law?
What?
His son-in-law. He isn't an obvious choice for the master's daughter, is he?
Ron? He's Imogen's little rebellion.
A different kind of rebellion from yours.
I don't know what you mean.
We have a file on you, Miss Maxton, at headquarters.
Are you listening? Are you listening, Mummy? Yes. Yes, darling, I'm listening.
You've got to get rid of her. You've got to get her away.
Tell her to go. She's evil. Do you understand? I don't know what you're talking about, darling. We were getting on so well. It was like the old days.
I grew up, that's all. I resented being Imogen's paid companion. Which is what I was, in effect. Blanche's second child. After school. Most weekends. Every holiday. I was destined for an Oxford scholarship. But my mother became ill. And I discovered gin and tonic. And boys. And smashing the occasional shop window. I'm a good girl now, though. Promise. The Copley Barnes years. Touching, aren't they?
They seem idyllic.
They were, in a way. Only I didn't get the best out of them. Rather like learning this. For the fingering. And not knowing till much later what it meant.
Monday! What did I tell you?
Well, I'm sorry. I thought you were someone else.
There's been a message, sir. It's urgent.
What is it?
From the hospital. McGovern's mother. She's dying.
Tell him to get him out there fast, with an escort. I'm sorry, Mr. McGovern.
Now I'll tell you. It was 1987. I'd worked for Soil Scan about a year. They'd been testing this stuff known as EK4 over, well, I don't remember. Maybe, well, say since the beginning of the 80s, on a few targeted farms in Norfolk. And they realised they'd got a winner. There'd never been a fertiliser like it. High crop yields, clean soil, everything. There were memos flying around predicting the end of Third World famine by the turn of the century. There was government money, government approval.
You handled them, the memos?
Well, they were common knowledge. You see, I dealt with the figures from the tests, and you couldn't argue with them. And then it all started to go wrong.
We're so very sorry.
My instinct last night was quite right.
I was mistaken, Sylvia. I don't know what got into my head. We have guests arriving. Do you see our
Very distinguished guests.
I thought I was a distinguished guest.
So, I'm afraid we need your room.
Don't apologise. I was leaving anyway.
Had you thought of going to Imogen? I fear she couldn't cope.
I shall be at the Randolph 2 nights. It's not the first time I've fallen out of favour, is it, Blanche?
Fallen out? What on earth do you mean? There's no question.
I must own to second thoughts about this newspaper venture. It was, after all, my wife's idea.
Too bad, Master. I shall write my observations with or without your approval. And it's Sylvie, Blanche, not Sylvia. Sylvie was what my mother called me. It's the name I write under. It's Sylvie now. Sylvia was then.
Cancer.
Yes, cancer. It showed up first in cattle that grazed adjacent fields, got cereal in their feed. Then there was the stuff about people.
What stuff?
There were 2 bread chains, bakeries that used flour from treated wheat. It was the last stage of the trials. Soil Scan were about to go public. Then some bright GP started asking questions about the local incidence of brain tumours in children.
Your mother had cancer.
She just died, for Christ's sake.
You were obsessed with cancer, McGovern.
Yeah, sure. If you mean I didn't want anyone else suffering like she did. At least not without some accountability.
It happens all the time. A mistake, people suffer.
I'm not saying it was deliberate, but it happened. And nobody would admit it.
So, you told Julian Deere?
Well, I'd read his books. He was... Well, you know, you'd read his books too, Jake said.
Never mind, Jake.
So you gave Dr. Deere information you'd handled in the computer department?
And other stuff. Stuff I photocopied when I sussed what was going on. Then I left Soil Scan. I got the shakes a bit.
So why did you hit Deere in Beaufort Path?
I didn't. I keep telling you, he'd been hit when I got there.
Chief Superintendent Rennie would like to see you, sir.
Well, doesn't he know I'm interviewing?
Right away, he said.
Hello, Amanda. I thought you were in London. Are you back for a few days? We must have a lesson. I found that little Mendelssohn piece I'd like you to try. Oh, Phil, I wish you told me Amanda was going to be home. I do hope she's managed to keep up her practice. She's so very talented, you know. Well, goodbye, Amanda. Goodbye.
No, well, I take your point, Morse. Indeed, I take all of your points.
I believe McGovern's stories.
Yes, well, maybe you do, but...
When I have time, I'll go through the books and I'll identify the man that gave me the slip in the hospital.
Look, you will have a chance to do McGovern a bit of good in the witness box. First he'll get bail, then he'll get off. You see to it that there's reasonable doubt.
Beaufort College has very large interests and shareholdings in Corby International and its subsidiary companies.
You don't know the size of their holdings.
I don't know precisely, sir, because they're stalling. I do know there's a Corby representative among the college's advisors.
Well, there's nothing unusual in that these days, with business subsidizing the universities. No, Morse. You stay out of Beaufort.
I'm sorry.
We're not talking about big-time crime, for God's sake.
We're talking about a cover-up. A cover-up of scientific data that
My
might...
stuff, the fertilizer, whatever it is, has been withdrawn. Even McGovern says so. If new evidence comes to light, the right department will deal with it. It's not for us.
If McGovern is telling the truth, Dr. Deer's attacker is walking around free. You don't find it strange, sir, that the master sent Dr. Deer ahead of him into Beaufort Path?
An extraordinary imagination you have, Mark. Maybe you should give it a rest. Why don't you take that holiday soon? You have some leave owing.
You're getting off, McGovern, in a manner of speaking. Get in.
What?
Get in and keep down. I'm putting my job on the line over this, McGovern. I want the whole story.
There is nothing new about the soil scan affair. It follows a familiar pattern. Life is destroyed, and no one admits responsibility fail in our own responsibility if we don't do everything in our power to see that such incidents are made known, are held up to the light of day, are discussed and made the basis